All right, welcome back. Still have the 1937 Epiphone Triumph on the bench, and thought I'd just bring you in, give you a little bit of an update. Further inspection, if you watch the first part of the video, as I was doing further inspection, there are pieces of the back that are already loose. I was hoping to get away without having to take the back off of this, but as I started, and you probably can't hear that on the camera, but as I was just squeezing the pieces together, I could hear it kind of squeaking, which kind of led me to believe it was loose. And then I was able to take, can you see my thin little palette knife here? And it went right in for about this far. I've got, it's attached, I'm guessing here, to the heel block. We've got some attachment, but also there's some loose, the kerf lining, whatever you want to call that, is loose on the inside, it feels like. So I'm going to have to go ahead, I think, take the back off and then get everything hopefully lined back up and glued back together and all of that before I can do any kind of binding or anything. So I thought I'd bring you in and kind of show you how I'm carefully doing this, because of course you don't want to break anything. I'm going to reposition you just a little bit, maybe give you a good view here of what I'm doing. You can see I've got a wedge in the part that's open, and I'm sliding it this way as I move. I've got my iron kind of off. You can't see that, but I'm holding the palette knife up against the iron to get it hot. And then carefully, once it's heated up, it doesn't take long to heat the knife up, but carefully, you can see where it's separated the top from the lining there. I can, thanks to the bright shop light, of course. And you'll hear snaps and crackles and pops and all of that as you go through that old glue. Again, you're not wanting to break anything, so carefully, and it just pushed through there very, very easily. And so now that I'm through there, make sure I still got you in the film. Yep. So as I'm through that part there, I'll take the shim, the wedge, whatever you want to call it, and I'll slide it down. And what that does, it just puts a little pressure against the two pieces and kind of helps separate things. You do have to be careful though, because the palette knife gets really warm when you heat it up, and if you grab hold of it, you can burn your fingers, so you got to be careful. Again, I wasn't wanting to take this guitar apart, but I'm going to guess probably somewhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of the back is already loose. So I didn't feel like I really had much of a choice. And it's actually coming apart pretty easily. But you never know, some spots can be challenging. And again, you take chances working on instruments, and it doesn't matter if it's this is a solid wood guitar and all of that, an old guitar that will have a little bit of value to it once it's back in playable condition and looks halfway decent, and something that'll get added to my collection. This is guitar for me. I don't sell my guitars. I collect guitars more than I ever get rid of anything. I've shared with you about the only thing that I bring in that I get rid of are guitars that I fix up and pass along for people to learn how to play. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working my way around, and slowly I'm going to work my way around. So I'll take the worst thing you could do working on an instrument is get in a hurry. So one of the reasons I actually started doing instrument repair was I'm not a very patient person by nature, and this has taught me, you know, if you're going to do this and do it properly, you got to have some patience. I'm going to have to heat my knife back up, but you don't want to get in a hurry. What you're going to do when you get in a hurry is you're going to break something and all of that. So I'm just going to take some time. I've showed you a little bit of what I'm doing here. Just keep sliding the wedge around this way to kind of help put a little bit of pressure, and then with the knife just going into that and trying to separate the glue. I'm not twisting or applying pressure. I'm just basically trying to push through the glue. I'm not prying, I'm not lifting or pushing or anything like that, because again, I don't want to take a chance on breaking anything. But I think what I'll do at this point, I'm going to keep working around because I don't know how long it'll take me to do this, and I don't want the video to be outrageously long, but you've kind of seen me do a little bit. So just in the time that I've been working and talking to you here, I've come, you know, that far around the guitar. Can you see that? Yeah, so I've come that far. So I'm just going to keep working. It's going to take me a little while, again, to kind of get all the way around here, because I'm just going to take my time and do it. And what I'll do is I'll bring you back and we'll do a reveal, and we'll let you see the inside of this 80-something-year-old guitar. Again, it's a 1937. This is 2019, so what would that be, 82 years or so, if my math is correct. So looking at a fairly old guitar here, and we're going to do our best to get it back in playing condition, because I'd love to hear how it sounds, this nice old guitar. So I'm just going to keep working my way around there, and I'm going to take a break for just a second, and then I'm going to pause you, so it'll be just a second for you, and then I'll bring you back once I've got this back ready to come off, and we'll look inside the guitar. All right, welcome back. It's been, well, I spent once I paused from you, another 30 minutes or so, and then stopped and had a bite to eat. So it's been a little while since I was with you. For you, it's just, of course, been a couple of seconds. And I thought I'd do a reveal. I have looked inside myself already, but I thought I would set this up for you and let you see. So here we go. 82-year-old guitar, 1937 Epiphone Triumph. And there is the inside. Here is, see if I can get that in the film for you. There's the label, Epiphone Triumph, and the number 11239. I went and found an Epiphone database, put that number in and did a search, came up with 3 different guitars that had that particular serial number, and said if the label was applied where you could see it through the sound hole, which this one is, of course, then it was 1937. The other 2 were serial numbers stamped into the headstock. So, all right, so we're inside. I've taken a few minutes, taken my palette knife, and I've kind of gone along the edge of the main braces here, and both of those, the 2 braces here, the main braces, do not feel loose to me at all. I can't get the palette knife under there. These, on the other hand, if you can see there, my palette knife is going under. Some of these smaller brace pieces. Oh, in fact, that one just popped off there. So I didn't push on it at all. Oh, that one's the same way. That one's going to pop off as well. In fact, that one's broken. You can see there, but I'll glue that back. Clean up the other, if there's any glue left underneath there, clean that up a little bit. I'll glue it back in place. There. I'm going to check all these other ones. I'm guessing these smaller braces here, probably some looseness here, and you can see a little bit of the lining from where I took excuse me, where I took the back off. A little bit of the lining was messed up. There's actually a piece here that is broken off, and I'll get all of that, find out where all of that goes, and put it back where it's supposed to be, and all of that, get that back in shape, and we won't have a problem here getting everything put back where it's supposed to be. It'll line up fine, it'll go back. The other thing that I did is I took off this cap that was cracked and broken, and I'll figure out something to put back there. I'll probably just make that out of wood as well. Whether I'll do something similar, maple or whatever, that matches the top, I'm not sure yet. I'll figure that out. I got time on that. But it's really dirty and dusty on the inside, so I'll do some cleanup in there as well. There's all kinds of stuff inside. There's a piece of a guitar string, and it's actually a ball end guitar string, which I'm sure that tailpiece holds ball end strings, but figure that out real quick. Yeah, so it's probably just one of the guitar strings that was on the guitar at one point. Again, it didn't have strings on it, of course, when it came to me, because the tailpiece is broken. And I did take that off, so let me I can give you a little better shot of that. Here's the end pin. Came out super easy, and the hole is like all oblong and all of that. There's tape around the end pin, so I'm guessing I'm not the first one in 80 years to have done something to this guitar. So, you know, I don't know if I'll end up using this, or if I'll just put a dowel, fill the hole, and then put a regular strap button on there. That's kind of how I'm leaning at this point. But you can see here, this is broken, and I don't know if there's a way that can be fixed, repaired, and refurbished. I may check into that. If you have suggestions for that, please send them to me, because I would like to use the original piece here if I can. I just am not sure if it's possible. So I'll do some research on my end. If you could maybe let me know, that would be great. So that's the inside of an 80-year-old guitar. So kind of where we are on that. What I want to do, there's still some binding on here, and I think I said in the last part of the video that maybe a quarter to a third of the back was already loose, which is why I took it off. Actually, that was on, once I got to this side over here, almost this whole side was loose. So I'm guessing it was more than half of this was art, where I could just take and push the knife. You can see here the kerf lining, it wasn't even touched at all. And I guess where you would expect to be stuck the most was up here on the neck block, and you know, it was glued. I don't want to say it was, you know, there's no tear out or anything here, so it was definitely not difficult to to get off. It was just, this is where it was stuck the most. And that's just because it has the most surface. Even at the tail block here, really wasn't much holding it. Once I got this point with the warm knife, it just kind of jumped from here to here. You notice the Band-Aid? Remember I was telling you to be careful with stuff? I was here like this, and this kind of hit a spot that was glued and then hit where it wasn't glued, and then kind of went like this and ended up slicing into my finger here. So as thin as this is, definitely will. So again, chance you take, you got to be careful, all of that. Take my own advice. So, and for whatever reason on the inside, that's a match, like an old school match from a matchbook was inside there. There's several pieces of the binding that are in here. Again, I'm just going to clean all of this up and probably get rid of some of this dust that's in here, clean everything up, check and double check all of the bracing to make sure that it's not loose. I want to make sure that I can't get up under here with the knife, because the last thing I want is to get the guitar back together and then have these braces come loose, these two, especially these two main braces here. But again, I can't push the knife up under there, so they seem like they're glued really well. But I'll spend a little more time and double check them. And if that becomes a little bit of a project, excuse me, if that becomes a little bit of a project, then I'll put that in a separate video and you can watch me glue these. Have to get probably a little bit creative, because this is an arch top, so I'll have to get a little creative with how I'm going to clamp these pieces when I get ready to glue them, but I'll have to figure that out. So anyhow, I just wanted you to see the inside of an 82-year-old guitar. So it's going to do it for this part, kind of the exploration part of the video and all of that. I'm going to just again do some cleanup. There's a lot of dirt and all of that on the guitar, so I'm going to do some cleanup. I'm not going to do much around the label because I definitely don't want to lose that. But I'll do a little bit of cleanup on it and all of that before I glue it back on. There's still some binding that has to come off. You can see the kerf here where it kind of broke, but that's fine. It'll actually be it'll help line things back up. So because it goes down here, and so when that goes back on, that'll just kind of help line things up. It actually goes back together really well, so I won't leave the back off of it for very long at all. It is in two-piece. It is a two-piece back. I don't know if you can see the seam there. Maybe you can see the seam between the two pieces. So I don't see that being loose at all. There's no separation there at all, but it is a two-piece back. It's not a solid. A lot of the plywood guitars will just be one piece of plywood and then pressed to get that shape, but this one is not. Definitely not. So it's kind of the next step. I'm going to just do some cleanup and try to get the back glued back on here as quickly as I can, because I don't want it to be off too long. It hasn't been glued very well for a long time, so I'm not in a super big hurry to do it, but I'll need to get it back together so I can take some measurements and all of that, so I can order some binding and see what we're going to do as far as that. Again, I'm kind of leaning toward doing a wood binding. And the other thing that leads me to believe that somebody's been in here before is, again, this, which I'm assuming somebody was using as a guitar, to hold a guitar strap on there. On the inside, I'll show you the inside of it if I can. There you go. It's got this plate on it, and I'm not sure, but I doubt, I haven't seen pictures where I would think that would be an original piece to this guitar. There's also another hole that silver plate kind of covers up, so I'm gonna have to deal with that a little bit, but not that big a deal. I am gonna take that off, so I think it's just gonna unscrew and come off of there. So I'm gonna take that off, and I'll probably do some kind of fill on here and do some amber dye and you know, maybe a piece of wood if I need to, or something to kind of cover this up so you don't really see it. I don't want a hole there, but that's kind of where I am now. And again, measurements and wrap my head around what I want to do to get this thing back together and playable. So again, thanks for watching. Just thought you'd like to see the inside of this old guitar, and I'll bring you along for the next part. See you again soon on the channel.